Well, good morning. This is Brian Hornback of BrianHornbackdotCom. It is Wednesday, and I'm going to use some notes today because when I did a vlog on Monday, I left out some key races. So we're actually going to go through the ballot. And before we do that, let me make an announcement. If you are a parent of a Knox County school student, you have till tonight to decide to go online and to indicate whether your child will be taught online or in the classroom for the first semester. So all Knox County parents, be sure you get online today and no later than tonight and make that selection. You don't want them making the selection for you. Before we get started, let me mention my good friends, the Matlock family from down in Loudoun County, Jimmy and Dean and their two sons, Joe and Reagan, and they have a daughter that lives up in Washington, D.C. Family-owned business, Matlock Tire and Auto Service. Have now 5 locations. Their original location in Lenore City, Athens, Tennessee, Maryville, Farragut, and now in Hardin Valley. So those of you that have been living in Hardin Valley that have been going to the Farragut or Lenore City store, you now have one right there in your own community near Mississippi State Community College and across from Hard Knocks Pizza. So appreciate my friends Matlock Tire and Auto Service. So let's start with the U.S. Senate race. On the Republican side, there's quite a few candidates. 2 that are considered. I think the race is probably between those 2. That would be Ambassador Bill Hagerty and Dr. Manny Sethi, a trauma surgeon out of Nashville. Dr. George Flynn out of Memphis has been doing some advertising on TV and has some billboards. So he's certainly a contender, but I really do think it's obviously between Hagerty and Manny, because they're the ones that have invested the money and got the ground team to do that. On the Democrat side, you have James Mackler, who's considered, I think, to be kind of the front runner, but you got a guy that originally was out of Oak Ridge, Mark Pickler, who is giving Mackler a run for the money on the Democrat side. Then we turn to the congressional race here in the 2nd District, based out of Knoxville. Congressman Tim Burchett is unopposed in the Republican primary. And Renee Hoy I think she has an opponent, but they dropped out, my understanding. So she's basically unopposed. So we'll talk about that race August to November. Up in the 1st District, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. There's about 16 candidates running to replace Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe's not running again. Several state legislators. My good friend David Hawk, state representative out of Greenville. Timothy Hill, state representative out of Upper East Tennessee. Rusty Crowe, state senator from up in Upper East Tennessee. And the one non-politician that has really been able to put on a pretty good campaign with some good TV buys is Diana Harshberger. So, 16 people in the race. It doesn't take a whole lot of votes to get out of that primary and then take on the Democrat. And there are a few Democrats up there, but we know the 1st District is a pretty solidly Republican district. Chuck Fleischman in the 3rd District is unopposed in the primary. In the 4th District, my friend Scott Desjardins is running again, and he faces a Democrat in Christopher Hale. So that'll be an interesting race, August to November. Let's now talk about the state. Let's first talk about the state Senate race. You got on the Democrat side, you got Jane George and Sam Brown running, and they want to. One of them is going to win that primary and take on Becky Duncan Massey, my state senator from State Senate District 6. Then we'll go in numerical order. District 13, Lane Davis is unopposed in the Republican primary, and Gloria Johnson, the current state representative, is unopposed in that Democrat primary. So that will be an August to November race. In District 14, the state representative, Jason Zachary, is unopposed, and his Democrat opponent, Justin Davis, is unopposed. So we'll talk about that in May to November. In District 15, there's no Republican, But there are 3 Democrats: Matthew Park, Sam McKenzie, and State Representative Rick Staples. That race is interesting. Matthew Park has certainly put on a good grassroots campaign. Rick Staples is doing what an incumbent does, and thanks to some friends of Rick Staples, they've got an ad for Rick on BrianHornbackdotCom. And Sam McKenzie, I'm not sure what Sam's doing. But anyway, moving on to District 16. In the Republican primary, you have Michelle Carringer, current county commissioner, facing Patty Bounds, or actually Patty Bounds facing Michelle Carringer, one of the two. Patty Bounds announced back in late July, early August, and within a few weeks of that, Bill Dunn, the state representative, announced that he was not going to run again. He was first elected in 1994, and so he's retiring, Speaker Pro Tem. Carringer and Bounds. Carringer's a county commissioner. Bounds is a school board member from the Powell area. Michelle Carringer serves the 2nd District, which is Fountain City and North Knoxville. Race is pretty close, I think. Both of them are on BrianHornback.com, and I appreciate that. And the winner of that primary will face Elizabeth Rowland. And that whoever wins that primary better start on August the 7th, because Elizabeth Rowland is the daughter of Mike Rowland, who's passed away, but he ran for Congress back in the 80s, 90s. And she's not your typical left-leaning liberal Democrat. Then we move to District 18. This is the one that I accidentally, didn't talk about on Monday. My friend Gina Oster, I've known Gina Oster since 1999 when we first met. And she is facing Eddie Manis. Manis, you may remember, is a dry cleaning owner of a dry cleaners in Knoxville. Ran unsuccessfully for mayor of Knoxville. Has spent his dollars supporting Democrats, and has, as recently as March the 3rd, cast a vote in the Democrat presidential primary. So Oster has been working. Her people have been working. She's got 3 adult sons, and they have been knocking on doors every day, every night. They're, ultimately, I think, obviously, if that district rewards hard work, then Gina Oster should win it pretty soundly. And there's just a lot of other stuff going on. So check out BrianHornback.com. You'll read about some of the things that are going on with the Manis and Oster campaign. Dave Wright out in District 19. That's out in the far east, northeast in East Knox County. He's unopposed. He just finished. He'll be finishing up his first term, which is a 2-year term. And he is unopposed in the primary. In the District 89, which is the Hardin Valley, Carnes area, Justin Lafferty is finishing up his first term. And he'll face Greg Mills, an independent, in November. My friend Kent Calfee down in District 32, he was elected in 2012 and has served well. He's been challenged a few times. He's being challenged again by a man named Mike Hooks. Mike Hooks has been on the county commission for, 12, 14 years. And he also served as 911 director. And it's really quite comical. He just retired as 911 director, and he is now running for state representative. But it's like, you held 2 positions. You held a position on county commission, and you were 911 director. At what point should term limits kick in or allow somebody else to do it? Kent served that district. It's parts of Ronan and Loudoun County. Kent served that district well and deserves to go back again. There's the interesting thing about that race is that Kent and his wife Marilyn, which are a team, have both had COVID, and so they were off the campaign trail for a bit, and actually had pneumonia in addition to the COVID. And Hooks had some medical issues this week as well. So hopefully all those folks will get well. Let's now move to the general election, the county general election. Let's start in county commission, and we'll go through these pretty well in a lightning round. District 1, which is East Knoxville, you got Dr. Dacia Lundy. She bested County Commissioner Evelyn Gill for the Democrat primary. She's running against independent Reginald Jackson. Been an interesting race, and it's certainly getting more heated as we get to the home run. In District 2, that's the seat that Michelle Carringer has served for will be 4 years. She's, as we said, she's running for state representative, and Republican Grant Rosenberg faces Democrat Courtney Durrett. That district is very much a 50-50 Democrat-Republican. David Collins was once the county commissioner, Republican from there. He got bested in the early 2000s by Mark Harmon. Mark Harmon served, and then when Mark Harmon went out, I guess Michelle won 4 years ago, so that's a Republican. So I may be missing somebody in between Harmon and Carringer, but anyway, so that's where that's at. Okay, so that's I really look for Courtney Durrett. She's had more of a grassroots campaign. She's a go-getter. I really look for her to give the Democrats a second seat on county commission. In District 4, Kyle Ward, a newcomer, bested the establishment candidate Scott Broyles in the primary, and he now faces Todd Frommeyer. Both of those folks are on BrianHornbackdotCom, and I appreciate both of their support. And that district runs from about Sequoia Hills all the way out to Bluegrass community out in southwest Knox County. In District 5, incumbent John Schoonmaker is being faced by Democrat activist Kimberly Peterson. And that race, the district is pretty much a Republican district. It's a district I served on. I was elected to serve on the school board, a very Republican district, but would certainly have some folks who would be considered independent at the same time. In District 6, 8, and 9, those folks are all unopposed. Terry Hill, who served on the school board, currently on the school board, is unopposed to replace Brad Anders for District 6. Richie Beeler, who's finishing up the unexpired term of Dave Wright, is unopposed for a full 4-year term. And Carson Daly, who's just finished serving a 4-year term, is up for another term unopposed. Criminal court judge Kyle Hickson is serving in that capacity. Matter of fact, Kyle's court is the first court to have a jury trial since post-COVID. You can read about that in the daily paper. Kyle bested Wesley Stone in the Republican primary and is going on to the general unopposed. Public defender Eric Lutton, who won that primary, faces Sharif Gindi. I hope I said that right, Sharif. Sharif is a Democrat, I believe. And so that race is for public defender. Mark Stevens, who held that position for a number of years since 1990, retired in October, and Eric Lutton won that primary and was appointed by the governor to finish until September 1st. Law Director David Book, who has been the right hand of Law Director Bud Armstrong, won that primary against Kathy Quish-Shanks, and he faces Jackson Feener, another local lawyer. Property assessor is unopposed. That's our friend John Whitehead. So he will start his last 4-year term on September the 1st. And the good news is John is probably the most qualified property assessor. We know he's the most accredited, credentialed property assessor in the state. And so he'll lead us through the next reassessment, which I believe is in 2021 or 2022. Then we look at the school board races, all unopposed because they won at least 50% outright in the primaries, and that's in District 2, Jennifer Owen. District 3, Daniel Watson, a newcomer who bested the incumbent Tony Norman, who former county commissioner, former stormwater employee for the county. Susan Horn in the 5th District, she's currently serving as the chairman of the school board, and then Mike McMillan out in the 8th District in East Knox County. The town of Farragut, you have two alderman ward positions up. In Ward 1, Louise Pavlin, who currently serves as the vice mayor, is unopposed, and Drew Burnett in Ward 2, and he too is unopposed. You have one judicial retention vote. Karma Dennis McGee, who is the judge of Court of Appeals of the Western Division of Tennessee, is up on a retention. And I'm just going to give you my personal opinion on those retention votes. You asked me a dumb question, I'm going to give you a dumb answer. And you asked me if somebody should be retained, and I'm going to vote no. I'm going to vote no every time. Successfully got one Tennessee Supreme Court judge kicked off that way, Penny White, back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. Likelihood is that judge will be retained, Penny White. There was some issues that were brought on by some conservatives that really wind up forcing her not to be retained. That's not happening anymore on these retention races, and that individual will be retained. So anyway, this has gone on a lot longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to be sure and cover all the races that are on the ballot. Encourage you to get out and vote. You got till August the 1st to cast an early vote, and then after August 1st, you need to go to your polling place on August the 6th. That's the first Thursday of August. The state primary and the general election is always the first Thursday of August. I know most of our elections are on Tuesdays. The county primaries and the federal general are always on a Tuesday, but the state goes with the first Thursday. So August the 6th at your polling locations, and on early vote, all the normal places, downtown West, Farragut, New Harvest Park, Halls, Carnes, Clinton Highway, South Knoxville, the Love Kitchen, and the City County Building. Wow, I did that. Pulled that off. All right, 17 and a half minutes. Probably too long, but again, I appreciate you tuning in. And for those of you that are in business and you need your business insurance checked, call my friend Lou Moran at Interagency Insurance. And I want to thank him for entrusting interagency insurance on BrianHornbackdotCom. And we'll talk to y'all soon.